Okay, guys, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. We got a lot of stuff to cover today. Hamas is planning on doing another October 7th attack on Israel with 30,000 soldiers. They've recruited 10 to 15,000 more since we knocked them down from about 50,000 combined to perhaps 15,000. Now they've regrouped by recruiting young men, by offering them food, medical, money, etc. And since we only destroyed about 25% of the tunnels, they're probably training them in the tunnels. And now they're talking about another October 7th. And I'm going to give you the whole breakdown and explain it to you. There's nothing new developing on the Iranian talks with the Americans. Its next step is Wednesday. The USS Harry Truman aircraft carrier was not damaged, as the Houthis are claiming all over Arab media, Muslim-oriented, terrorist-oriented media. And on the 20th of the month, today is the 21st, and it's 9:51 in the morning now in Israel. Yesterday, the commander of I guess he's a captain, I don't know, but probably a captain, on the USS Harry Truman made videos of the American jets taking off the deck of the Harry Truman to attack the Houthis. So that, again, is another false claim. They also had a missile fall in Sana'a, which is in Yemen, the capital, and hit a residential building. That was their own missile. The Houthi missile hit a Yemen person's house in Sana'a, the capital of Yemen. So that just goes to show you how great they are, right? You know, real bunch of winners, these people, huh? They also showed pictures of a drone that was down. They think what they're saying was it wasn't an MQ-9, it was something else. And there's a video of a guy that went to look at the drone and saw Arabic writing on the side of it. And he said, the Americans don't put Arabic writing on their drones. Unless Trump started doing that as a joke, but I doubt it. Then we're going to get into the Bible about the days of Noah, which is now, and we're going to talk about ruler against ruler in the daughter of Babylon, America, and the SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, just ruled that Trump cannot use the Emergency War Act powers to deport illegals out of America based on claims they're associated with Venezuelan gangs and terrorists or whatever Trump's doing. He can't just carte blanche throw them out. He has to run them through the court system, which would take, I don't know, years and years and years. And we're going to get into this, okay? So it's going to be a lot of information again today. I don't have any way to stop that. There's so much going on. It's amazing. My thanks to the mods, if they're here, for keeping me from having to spend a large amount of time deleting the hecklers and the people that like to just put nasty things up. And thinking, I'll just get started. Let me jump into the live stream and get my posts up, make sure we got a live stream, and we'll go ahead. We might again get a brief interruption while this device prompts me to do something. I don't know what, like update or something. I haven't finished with that. I have to deal with that. If anybody else wants to be a moderator, and I know who you are, send me an email and I'll make you a moderator. Mexico, very good. When they come in and they want you to give them a shout out for some reason, a birthday or something like that, it's Second Corinthians 9. It's Second John, or is it First John? I think it's Second John verses 9 to 11. Don't greet people that you don't know, and that's what they're trying to do. Okay, I'm gonna get my posts up, and we'll get going. We got good sound and picture. I'll most likely catch that pop up on the screen that will suspend the live stream, and I'll fix it in a few seconds. So if you see it buffering, don't worry, I'll grab it in a few seconds. It's nuts that they interrupt the live stream for a pop-up. It's just, the annoyance is absolute, but I got to deal with it, and I will. It's just there's so much going on that when I get done, I'm tired, and I gotta. Then I update Telegram probably 5 or 6 times during the day, and there's a ton of stuff happening on Telegram. So, the keyboards between the iPad and the Samsung Android device drive me crazy because things are in different positions. This threat by the Hamas in Gaza is real. By the way, I'm going to break it down for you. I'm not going to be much longer. I'm going to get my email address up and then we'll get going. We're having nice weather these days. A little cold at night, but not very. We're getting into more normal weather for this time of year. Let's see if it lasts. Okay, my email address is up if any of you want to send in a prayer request, a toast request, or whatever. You can do that. Or you could also post it in the chat. I do check the chat. Okay, during the broadcast. Let's do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Those of you that hate the Israelites and the Jews, which I'm one of, I'm a Levite, I'm also a Cohen, descendant of Aaron, I remind you of the scripture, salvation is of the Jews. Now, when you go to these churches, and a lot of them hate Israel and the Jews, you should remember that scripture and try to figure out how it is. Ask the goofy pastor how this works, how we could go around hating the Jews, and at the same time, the scripture says salvation is of the Jews, and all the apostles and the prophets were Jews, and Yeshua was from the tribe of Judah, high priest in the order of Melchizedek, king of Israel, calls the believers his brethren, and yet you hate them. So you should try to figure this out and see what spirit you really are of. It's obvious, but some of you don't want to realize it. You're so infatuated with hating the Jews. Okay, so let's talk about what happened in Gaza. Well, we decimated them down from about 50,000, that's combined Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and the other groups, down to about 15,000. And they, in recent months, recruited a number of young Gazan men. They don't take women in the military. Nobody should, according to the Bible, but they do. Israel does, and they shouldn't. Moving along, why did these men join Hamas? Well, there's the food problem in Gaza is somewhat there. They're not starving, but food's expensive, it's intermittent, there's been no humanitarian aid for a while now, weeks. So the bottled water isn't coming through, the cooking fuel's not coming through, the medical's not coming through, the food's not coming through, and so forth. So the Hamas, when they were down to about 15 to 20,000, we, the Israeli intelligence, estimated they stole enough food from the humanitarian aid and stockpiled it probably in tunnels that they have enough food for 6 months. Now, if they've doubled their numbers, which they seem to think they have, and nobody's taking issue with that, now their food supply is down to 3 months. So they're giving food to these young recruits who are probably getting a little extra to give to their families, and they're allowing them to get medical supplies and all this stuff. And they say they're training them in secret places. Well, the only secret places in Gaza are in the tunnels, or maybe they have an underground bunker. Now, it's been told to us from soldiers that there's only 25% of the tunnels have been eliminated, but let's say it's probably between 25 and 50%. So there's still a bunch of tunnels left, and that's probably where they're training them. And why are they training them on rockets and explosives? Because it wouldn't be real wise for them to teach shooting in the tunnels, because the tunnels are concrete, walled, and the ricochets would be rather deadly. So, and if they went above ground and started having practice shooting, we'd know about it and blow it up of some sort. So they're not well trained. But remember, when the Gaza thing happened, many thousands of Gazan civilians came in with the Hamas and were mean and cruel to the Israelis. Okay? Now, the Israelis months ago have all returned back to South Israel near Gaza. So what are they up to? Israel has a lot of troops inside Gaza and in Israel by the border of Gaza, and we have a number of tanks and mobile artillery and armored vehicles and Humvees with machine guns mounted on them. They're typically a 30 caliber anti-personnel machine gun. Some probably have 50 calibers. Either way, they're perfectly adequate for shooting, people. Um, the 30 would be probably a 308 NATO round. I'm rather certain of that. They might have some 223 machine guns as well. This I don't think so, but possible. I don't think they normally would mount those on a vehicle. They would use a heavier round, which would be able to penetrate barriers better. 223 machine guns do exist, but they're usually more like a squad machine gun, not something you mount on a vehicle. That's a very light machine gun. And it would be useful if you were protecting a poorly armored or, base or military position, and you were taking fire from enemy soldiers and they were trying to, flank you and advance on you. It would be a rather useful tool. So could they do this? Yeah. Would they get decimated if they did it? Well, would we get 100% of them before they reached Israel and got to the houses and homes and buildings and cars and agriculture fields? We wouldn't get all of them. No. What would we get? It's very difficult to say. I'll break it down for you so you understand this, because I believe this is a reality. And when I get finished, I'm going to explain to you what the goal of them is. And that goal, I'll tell you now, is to take a few hundred hostages or more back into Gaza, because that's the way Hamas sees themselves getting out of this. Netanyahu just told them, we're not ending the war over 24 hostages and a bunch of dead bodies of hostages. That ain't happening. So now Hamas understands they're going to be getting bombed day and night, target assassinations day and night. Israel took 30% of Gaza land already and holding it a buffer zone, and that's probably going to go to 40% and 50% and this type of thing. Okay? So what they would do could go a few different ways. One is they could be very daring and assemble a couple of miles from the border openly. Now, would Israel drop bombs on them and blow them up? Probably not, because that would be pretty heavy-duty genocide in the world, and I don't think Israel would blow them up just because they're collecting out in the open. But you never know. Netanyahu may say this is a really bad threat and send 25 planes up and they drop bombs on them, and that's the end of that. Then the war's over. So it's a pretty bold move for Hamas to take, and they're rolling the dice, and they don't know what Netanyahu and Israel would do. And they probably would not take the existing hostages above ground and display them in their midst. They might try that. So I think they would try to stage in different parts of Gaza, spread out, and then with, in a well-timed action, emerge at night from their hideouts and swarm the border in probably several miles of locations, or at least 3 or 4 miles of locations, and just run at the border. This would be a bonsai attack like the Japanese did in World War II. They knew they were mostly going to get killed. They were swarm attacking soldiers on foot, swarm attacking American positions. The Viet Cong In Vietnam, this happened too, and they just charge, knowing some of them will get killed, but some of them will get through. And as they started running, like in the Vietnam positions, the mortars would rain on them, and machine guns would fire at them, and artillery would fire at them, and they would be dropping like flies, and they still kept coming. And then they get to the front lines, and they just keep coming, and some get through. Now, when you're dealing with lunatics that are telling the people that you're a martyr, and if you get killed, you instantly go to paradise and you got your 70 virgins, and if you win, you win. Now you're a hero. So they look at it as a win-win. Now, when they have terrorist attacks in Israel, the terror organizations normally give them some kind of drugs. It's a combination drug. It has elements of ecstasy, speed, and I don't know, all the other ingredients, probably some euphoria ingredients as well, which ecstasy is. And they don't really want them hallucinating, like imagining things that don't exist. So it's not a hallucinogenic. And it makes it harder to kill them. Although I've seen videos, when they get hit with the 223, they go down and they try to get up again. When you shoot them with the 9mm full metal jacket, standard velocity NATO rounds out of pistols like the civilians in Israel normally have, they take multiple hits, they fall down, and then they often get up again. So you got to be getting up to 3 or 4 hits with the 9mm. Why they use this round, I never know. 9mm is, in a pistol, can be an adequate round if you buy the special ammo, like some special Underwood or Corbon or something, where it's going to be a hollow point that's not going to fill with clothing. Although in Israel, generally, there's not much clothing on anyway, a t-shirt or something, and it's going to expand to about a half an inch. Some of them go even up to 0.65 inches, and then it makes a large wound channel, causes shock, and has a much better effect. But using special, let's call it trick ammo, it's not trick, but highly engineered ammo, is not the greatest approach to life when you're trying to defend yourself, because it can screw up when it has to go through a barrier. Like what? Like, I don't know, a car window, a car door, a thin little Fiat car door, or someone hiding behind an easy chair, or a kitchen table turned on its side, or an easy chair, or anything, shrubbery. So you're better, the 45 ACP with full metal jackets, standard military, 230 grains, about 850 feet per second. Jeff Cooper, who used to be, he's dead, but he was a great authority on your handguns and rifles. He said that with one hit in the torso, you get about an 80% chance of a stop. Not a death. A stop means they stop fighting. They could stand there in shock. They could lean over. What they don't do is get flung back. That's Hollywood. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if you were going to shoot a pistol that goes like this, or goes maybe like this, it's not going to take a grown adult male and push him over or shove him into a wall. And that's a lot of times they'll just stand there, and they might for a few seconds not even realize they were hit. But it does stop the fight. So what Cooper said, you shoot him twice. That's called a double tap. Boom, boom. And he said there's no such thing, there's no such thing as 100% you're going to knock them down, but you're probably in the high 90s, 95, 98% with two shots. You're going to, out of 100 incidents, probably 95, 98% of the time, if there's two torso hits with the 45 ACP standard round, they're going to stop fighting. Not necessarily dead, they're going to stop fighting. They'll be disoriented, confused, their muscles will be screwed up, shocked, their ears will be ringing, vision blurred, confused, not understanding, maybe if you hit the lungs or the heart or the spine, it'll be the end of it. Also, those bullets are big and heavy and penetrate. They go through car doors, cheap little cars, they go through windshields. They don't recoil. They don't have a lot of muzzle flash. They're not trick ammo. And the Americans went away from that because they started getting a lot of women in the military, and they got a lot of small people in the military. And these guns are, I have a very large hand, and the guns are rather large typically. And the capacity of the guns is usually not high. The standard configuration is 7 in the clip and 1 in the chamber, which is 8. Now, they did make clips that hold 8 in the clip, and plus 1, you got 9. But when you go to the 9mm, and what they do have 45s that have a double magazine where they get up to maybe 12 rounds or something like that. But those guns have a very large grip. For me, no problem. For a woman or a small person, they can't shoot it. So they went for initially the Beretta in 9mm, the 92 FS, which was a fantastic gun if you bought the ones made in Italy. They were superb, not the American-made ones. You got to make sure it's made in Italy. Those are great guns. They don't jam. They're cold, hammered forged barrels, highly accurate, and blah, blah, blah. But you're still using an anemic round. It's not a good round. The Israelis use it. I don't know why. NATO uses it, and American military uses it, but it's not any good. The 45 was really good. There's a concept, if you know what you're doing, where you shoot into the hip with a round, and you break the hip bones and the bones around the hip, and then the person collapses. They can't stand, and that's the end of the fight. 9 times out of 10. Yeah, there's some nut that might work through all this pain and trauma and fall down holding his gun and laying on the ground, try to return fire, but that's a pretty rare thing. So what Cooper came up with was what's called the Mozambique approach, where you would shoot somebody in the torso twice. They called it a double tap. Boom, boom, and then you'd pause a few seconds, and if they still looked like they were functional, you went up to the head, the cranium over here, and you shot there, because it would indicate they had a bulletproof vest on. Okay, that was the way it was done, and that worked really good. And then they came out, and they screwed it up with stupid bullets, going into this 9mm. So they load them up on drugs, the terrorists, and then when the civilians shoot them in the street, they got to pop them. I saw a guy ran an old Jewish fellow over in the streets with a car, and then he got out of the car with a hatchet, and some bystanders had guns, and they shot him. He got hit once or twice. He fell down. Most people wouldn't get up, but because this keeps their blood moving faster and they don't feel the pain, these drugs they give him, he got back up again with the hatchet, and they had to shoot him a couple of times again. And then he was still breathing and trying to get up. He was spasming and trying to get up again. A few seconds of that, and they pass out, or they lose a lot of blood and pass out or something. So this is a problem, and you generally can't talk to the Israelis about this thing. They know everything. I'm an Israeli, but I wasn't born and raised here. They know everything. Okay, so, there's a lot of good bullets to get, but the 9mm ain't one of them. And relying on trick ammo is stupid, because you don't know what's going to happen if you go through sheetrock. Well, let's say a guy's on the other side of a door and you want to shoot through the door, or you want to get him behind a couch or an easy chair or a table he turned over, or behind any kind of obstacle you can think of, okay? You don't know how that trick bullet's going to behave, but with the 45 ACP full metal jacket, you know, and without any expansion predictions, you're going to get a .45, almost a half-inch hole, and you're going to get a lot of hydrostatic shock, and you're going to get a large wound channel. You're going to get a permanent and a temporary crush cavity that's going to be substantial. It's what you want, but go figure. The reason the police departments in America and the military went to it is for women and small people, okay? Because the 45 is, if you don't got a meat hook for a hand, you got a problem, okay? The best 45 I know of is the Heckler & Koch, the full-size 45. It has 12 rounds in the clip and 1 in the chamber, and that's a bunch. There's other ammo that's more powerful, but you don't need it. If you want a gun that you're going to feel comfortable with walking around in the woods of Alaska where there's big bears that weigh 1,200 pounds, and you're worried about people, then you probably want to get a good 10 millimeter gun and get some hot 10 millimeter ammo. And you're not going to want to get hollow points either, because you don't want hollow points with a bear. They got all that fat and you want penetration. And if you hit a bone, you want it to break the bone. So you want to get an all metal one. You don't want to get a Glock made out of plastic. They've been proven unreliable in recent years. So anyway, enough on my discourse on ammo. Back to Hamas. So they're probably going to just do a swarm attack at night all of a sudden, and they could probably arrange that. The detection capability of us would be, of course, diminished in nighttime, but still be available. So what Israel needs to do to prevent this is make sure they keep about 100 tanks minimum on the border, spaced apart, because our tanks generally have 2 machine guns, one fired from within the tank by remote control with cameras, and the other one fired by a gunner getting up in the turret and aiming, you know. Plus, we could shoot artillery. Our mobile artillery pieces could shoot artillery, and they're like tanks, armored, and they have generally 1 machine gun. Some might have 2. So that would be the approach. Hit them with artillery. I don't think we would use mortars and machine guns. But what I'm going to tell you now is a little scary. If you got 30,000 lunatics, probably 20,000 would swarm the border. And you are going to have a lot of dead Hamas, but not 100%. I don't see it. Now, our aircraft would bomb them if they were far away from our troops and our citizens. So once they get inside the border, maybe for a few hundred yards, quarter mile or half a mile even, we could still bomb them, okay? But once they get near where the people are, you can't use bombs, and artillery starts getting dangerous. And now you're down to what? You're down to machine guns and hand grenades and things like that, right? And they are probably likely going to reach some of the people's houses and agricultural land and destroy it. Now, Netanyahu is a big proponent of gun control, that nasty bum. Gun control is always, not some of the time, 100% of the time, put in place because the government's afraid of a civil uprising, period. You don't have to think this. You don't have to engineer it. You don't have to deep dive it. That is the reason, okay? Now, should people be allowed to buy artillery and mortars anti-tank weapons. I think that is something that's a little bit dangerous to have, okay? Um, but having, full automatic assault weapons should be available to everybody. Now, Israel has a massive amount of older, not in active use military assault weapons. They never sell them on the open market or destroy them. Netanyahu should go and distribute about 25,000 of these to the people living in South Gaza. But he won't. He's a bum. He's no stinking good. He's not for Israel. He's for Netanyahu, and he's for his God, which ain't the God of Israel. His God is down below. His God is garbage. You know who his God is. Say, he's not for us, okay? He's for him. And he won't do it. Ben Gvir would do it, Smotrich would do it, but he'll thwart them. That would stop this invasion. It would be pointless for them to pursue the invasion. They don't have tanks and armored vehicles and helicopters, and they can't come in like that. Okay? They did come in with some of these paragliders, but I think that is not a realistic expectation at this point. And we have so many soldiers there, and they're so easy to shoot down, it would be just an idiot thing for them to do. Some people in Gaza do have guns, pistols, but it's not enough, as evidenced by October 7th, which never would have happened if they had assault weapons. Like the old days. You lived in these dangerous areas near the borders, and the way it worked was they had an arsenal set up at the kibbutz or the moshav, and they had assault weapons with plenty of clips of ammo. They used to put a lot of tracer ammo in with it. And these guns were of various kinds. You had old Uzis, the big giant Uzis. No, not giant, the full-size Uzi. You had Galils, you had M16s, and you had M1 carbines, which isn't the end of the world. They're pretty okay. They carry a pretty potent round, and they have a 10-round clip, and they would stop them too. You don't need full auto to stop them. You can do it with semi-auto just fine, okay? And it used to be easy. If you lived in the kibbutz or the moshav and you were on sentry duty to patrol the fences, you went to the arsenal, checked out the gun. They trained you on the gun, and you checked out with the gun, and you went around with the gun. And these were potent guns. And a lot of people back then had pit bulls and German shepherds and Rottweilers that they took on patrol with them. Now, dogs generally like this. They like going hunting, and they know they're going hunting. Okay? And their nose is what? Many thousand times better than yours? Thousands and thousands of times. When a dog goes around and smells, let me tell you what the dog knows. He knows the present. He knows what he's smelling and looking at that time. He picks his nose up in the wind and he knows the future. He smells what's coming towards him. And he also knows what was there because he smells what was there that's no longer there. Then they track. Your dog knows how to track, okay? You'll see it sometimes, but they're not tracking dogs. You haven't trained them where you give them somebody's T-shirt and they smell it and then they go look for the scent and follow it. That's you directing their tracking. They track on their own. They know what's going on. So you're out in the dark, you're out patrolling by the fence, you're on alert. The dog senses your sweat, your breathing. They know you're on alert. They know something's up. They got to be aware. And guess what? They become aware. Now, if they're an older dog, it's not a good idea, of course. And if they're too young, it's not a good idea. But they know, and they're going to detect something, and they're going to start barking. And guess what? Now you got a dead terrorist because you start paying attention to the direction they're barking in, and then you can put a light on it when you're under cover, you're behind cover. and that type of thing. So that used to go on too. And then when you went off the kibbutz or the Moshav and you were going to go shopping or go somewhere in the city, go to medical or go to the bank or the government offices or whatever you wanted to do, you went into the arsenal and you said to them, I'm going in, I need to check out a gun for the day, or I'm going to be gone 3 days, and they'd give you a gun. And when you got back, you brought it back. So the guns didn't sit in the houses, they sat in the arsenal. But if something happened, guess what? Everybody runs to the arsenal. And it doesn't take a long time. And the arsenal is, a lightly fortified building, like all brick and concrete with a steel door. And, it's not that easy to get through it. Sure, a shoulder-fired rocket or something would get through. But they go and they get the rifle, and then they're defending their position. And a lot of them would run around with handguns because somebody could sneak in during the day. So when they're working in the field, they carry a handgun with them. So if they encountered somebody, boom, boom, Then they had big shelters in the kibbutzes and the Moshav where I've been in some of these. They would have it would be heavily fortified steel and brick and mortar around it. It would be an above ground entrance, a heavy steel door. I mean, a real heavy steel door. It would sustain hand grenades and stuff, right? And they would open it up, and it had these things that were on the surface that spun around to bring air in. And everybody would run in there, and they had a pretty substantial staircase with a railing that was maybe 18, 20 steps, something like that. And then there was a landing, and then they had a turn, a brief amount, I don't know, a few feet. And there was another big steel door, and that opened, and then they would get inside the actual shelter. And this was underground. Oh, I don't know how many feet, 25 feet or 20 or something like that. Enough to sustain most of the bombs and things like that, right? And it would, mostly we were worried about Katyusha rockets back then, which had a very light warhead and it wouldn't have any effect on the bomb shelters. If we were worrying about aircraft with 250-pound bombs, these shelters probably were enough, but by the skin of the teeth, maybe, 500-pound bomb, I think they would be in trouble. They were, concrete, fortified, reinforced inside. So the people would run in there. And they had 2 steel doors to get through, and then there would be some weapons in the final area. So if they broke through the first steel door and started shooting, they couldn't hit the door to get into where the people were because it was off onto the side recess. So they would just be shooting at concrete. So then if they went down the steps, they'd be in danger that there might be a shooting porthole in the door with a metal flap, and they could just stick a machine gun in there and spray. These things were relatively effective, but they're not. Some of them still exist today, and I guess they're still being used at times, but it's gravitated to the bomb shelter in every house, which is a bulletproof item. And they go in there, but they came in October 7th with thermal bombs, a hand grenade that made greater sense of heat and started fire. So when they're in their bomb shelter, the heat from burning the house got them, and the smoke and everything else. So the idea behind this is basically a suicide attack, but Hamas is not going to give up. They're not going to surrender their weapons. The Hamas soldiers have no intention of ever leaving Gaza except in a body bag. And they're sitting there thinking, well, every day there's bombings and bombings and bombings and bombings, and enough of the bombings and we're no more. So this is what they're resorting to at this point. And I think it's a very real threat. And they announced it because they're trying to get Netanyahu to back down. But if you talk to generals and let's say you knew them really well, they would tell you that some are probably going to get in. And they're going to try to take hostages and bring hundreds of hostages back into Gaza because that's the way Hamas gets out of this. If they get 300 hostages in Gaza, now don't think the Gaza civilians are not going to join in. I'm telling you, there's probably going to be 10,000 additional Gaza civilians joining in, like the last time. But they're not going to announce that because they don't want to ruin the public opinion of these poor, innocent Gazans getting killed in the Israeli genocides. Why are we killing them? Look what they're planning to do to us. Is this a war crime to rush in and kill civilians and take them hostages? Of course it is. Does anybody do anything about the war crimes with Hamas? Keeping hostages is a war crime. They don't. Abusing them sexually, physically, starving them, that's a war crime. They don't pay attention to that. The world lets them do it. After all, we're just stinking Jews. But this is a very, very real threat. Can they come in and take over parts of Israel and occupy it? Not a chance. No way. It would be a hit and run. They might start bringing motorbikes and cars if they can. If they can summon up a big rocket attack before, which I highly, highly, highly doubt, they would do that. But, all they got to do, remember, it's not just 30,000 of the soldiers, add in 10 to 20,000 Gazan civilians, believe me. If 10% of them survive the onslaught, okay, you're going to have 3,000 to 5,000 lunatics attacking Israelis that are mostly unarmed. Thank you, Netanyahu, you bum. So that if they were armed, this never would have happened. October 7th never would have happened. Netanyahu is rotten to the core. Okay? What he does is tantamount to giving out speeding tickets at the Daytona 500 race. He's just an idiot. Okay? He's an idiot. He's vicious. He's cruel. He's a liar. He answers to the unclean spirits. He's rotten. Okay, he's rotten. Okay, and he's not our friend. He's his friend, and he would not take a chance of these people in Gaza arming them because they may get sick of the missiles and rockets one day, and 800 or 900 of them might get together with the assault weapons and do a raid in Gaza and kill 300 or 400 of these idiots to get them to stop sending incendiary balloons over and shooting Katyushas at them, right? He doesn't want that. I'm the king of Israel. I will control the war. He's the worst piece of garbage Israel ever had for a leader. He's simply horrible. He was pro giving Gaza back. How the people forgive him of this, I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand it. He's such a piece of junk. It flabbergasts me, And so this is something that could happen. And Hamas figures if they get a few hundred hostages, even 100 hostages, Netanyahu's in no position to say we're not going to end the war for the sake of 100 hostages. But if they get 200 or 300 or 400, then they're in like Flint. Can they do that? It would be very, very difficult for them to get a large amount of hostages. I don't know how they can do it. They'd need vehicles so they could get back into Gaza quickly. But let us hope and pray that Netanyahu takes this threat seriously and puts 100 or 200 tanks on the border and fortifies things. What he should do, the bum, is he should take a section of land, maybe 200 or 300 meters wide, and put landmines in it. 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 And put landmines in and he should put electrified fences on it. But that piece of garbage won't do it. But that's what he should do, because then they got to cross a few hundred yards of landmines. You're not going to kill all of them, but a lot of them are going to get killed, and it's going to cause a lot of chaos, confusion. They're going to see their buddies wounded with arms and legs blown off and everything else. Plus, it's going to make a big racket. Now, he could take a sicko move, because he is a sicko. He is not right-wing. As of late, he's behaving right-wing, I have to say. But he is a centrist at best. He's a piece of garbage. Did I say that enough? He may evacuate the people in South Gaza, which means that they probably won't do the attack, because, yeah, they could come in and wreck the agriculture, burn it, wreck the houses and stuff, but that doesn't help them, because a lot of them are now dead, and they didn't get any hostages. The only thing that works against Israel from the viewpoint of Hamas is hostages. And that's what they're after. And it's a frightening thought. And I haven't heard the Israeli government openly talk about it. It's not really in our media or anything like that. But it's a real threat. And it could happen, but you're going to look at it, and you can say, nah, they'll all get killed. Yeah, they're all going to get killed, but not all. The vast majority of them are going to get killed, but there's going to be thousands that get through and go after unarmed Israelis. That's the problem. And if they come in the numbers I'm thinking, which would be probably 40 to 50,000, counting the civilians, which will join them, believe me, they will. You're talking about several thousand getting in. And yeah, this battle would probably go on for 2 or 3 days. And yeah, they would get killed. And would they get hostages back? And that's questionable. But Hamas is so scared right now that they'll roll the dice. Now, how can this get much worse? Egypt has over 100,000 soldiers on our borders, right near Gaza in Egypt, by the Rafah crossing area, and in the Sinai Peninsula, with tanks, mobile artillery, military fortifications, all kinds of equipment. What if they decide to work with the Gazans at the same time and start unloading artillery and mortars at us while this is going on? And maybe deploy planes and launch missiles off warships at us. You got to guarantee that's not going to happen. They're already in position. They hate our guts. What's the guarantee Egypt's not going to do it? Trump will get mad? Trump ain't even invading Iran. So Trump's going to invade Egypt, which is probably a very tough nut to crack, not exactly in the same way as Iran, but tougher. They got real warships, they got aircraft, they got helicopters, not the best, many generations backwards, removed back in time, but lots and lots of tanks, trained soldiers, lots of ammo, lots of missiles, and they got all kinds of stuff. So Trump will invade Yemen. Now Trump's going to start a war with Egypt. He's going to start a war with Iran at the same time. And then what happens? North Korea starts decimating South Korea. China takes over Taiwan and attacks Japan. And Russia hits Poland, Romania, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Sweden, Denmark, Norway. Take your pick. You can't hit them all at the same time, but take your pick. And then what does Trump do? It's over. What the heck is Egypt doing there, violating the Camp David Accords, if they don't intend to attack Israel? They're there to stop the Gazan civilians from swarming into their territory and not wanting to leave. I don't buy that. That could be taken care of with fences, multiple layers of fences, and building obstacles, trenches. They put mountains up, and a light amount of soldiers to stop it, very small amount. No. Then what does Israel do? Well, Israel got a real problem then. We can't bomb the Egyptian soldiers in the Sinai Peninsula and inside Egyptian territory without any problems. But they just start firing up artillery and start laying artillery on our soldiers while the Gazans are swarming and the people that live out there are unarmed. What about Turkey? Would they help? I'm not so sure. They wouldn't want to get into an October 7th genocide massacre, which is what this would be, with the taking of hostages. I don't think so. That's a little too bold. Can the Houthis from Yemen come up and stage in Egypt near the border and then swarm in to help Gaza? Yes. It's doable. It's a possibility. I haven't heard of it, but I haven't heard of it taking place, but it could happen. It's a mess, and that's going on right now. Turkey's also in Syria. He might open up on us from Syria and come in with warships to the waters by Gaza and shoot rockets and missiles at us from the warships. I don't know. We could sink his warships with planes and submarines, but I don't know. I'm not banking heavy on Turkey right now, but Egypt is in place, ready to go. We know Egypt turns against Israel and they lose and they get scared and they go into a 40-year captivity. Then they return and they serve Jehovah. But this is what Israel's facing right now. And what if Iran launches missiles and drones at Israel while the Gazans attack? And Iraq joins in also. What's Trump going to do? Nothing. What do you think he's going to do? We had yesterday 6 large King Kong cargo planes come into the Nevatim base in Israel. And we had about 10 previously in recent days. So there's roughly 15 or 16 cargo planes bringing stuff into Israel. That is amazing. I don't know what it is. It's not bananas, you know. Are they anti-missile systems? Are they missiles? Are they bombs? Are they ammo? Is it, I don't know what. I'm going to take a quick break and we're going to go deeper into this. Probably these are weapons destined to be used on Iran. That's what I think. The reality of the situation is Israel's going to be so scared when they get delivered by the two, before they get delivered by the two witnesses, they're not going to know what's going on. They're going to be very frightened. And it's getting to that level. The only thing I know that Netanyahu could do to stop this is, number one, genocide. Just drop another 4,500 bombs on Gaza, and then there's nobody left to attack. Beulah, what are you doing? I think what they need to do with the tunnels is bring gasoline trucks. You know that you go to the gas station, you see them filling up the tanks. Bring those kind of trucks. Go to the tunnels and put the gasoline in. Have the Marlboro man come and flip his cigarette in there while it's lit. That's a joke. And see how good their blast doors are. And how the smoke affects them. You know, and this type of thing. You know, Netanyahu's a crappy leader. He's a crappy politician. He's a crappy person. He's a despicable human being. And expect the worst from him. He's not going to just let this October 7th attack happen. He can't pull that again. And there's way, way, way too many soldiers around there by Gaza. So if they're going to decide to do a banzai attack, and they very likely will because they're at wit's end, they don't know what else to do, they'll do it. And they'll try their hardest to get other countries to help them. I don't think Iran cares about them very much anymore. It's over. Gaza's not an asset of theirs. There's nothing left for them. That's how I see it. They're trying to hang on to Yemen and have Yemen attacking the shipping to liberate Gaza, and then if Gaza gets liberated in the right way, they can rebuild. But it's failed. It hasn't worked. So the next step would be to have the Houthis attack, like the UAE, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, with Iraq helping them. But that's likely to get the ire of the Americans raised up. And they're not all that happy about that either. Then they have no proxies left at all. Hezbollah is not attacking us anymore from Lebanon. They try, but it doesn't go anywhere. Feeble efforts. And we still keep bombing and targeting assassinations daily up in Lebanon. It's too soon to predict what's going to happen with Iran and Trump, other than I suspect a lousy nuclear deal, because Trump can't really do much of anything about Iran. He's realized that. The most intelligent move for Trump would be to blow up the Iranian oil and their ports and piers and wreck their infrastructure. And that's real serious warfare, and he's afraid to do that. Congress would start him. They're trying to impeach him already. It may get legs, and it may happen, you know. Most of the people in America don't have a realistic understanding of these terrorists. And they don't understand that these terrorists are going to come to America to get them, and they don't understand that. China tested what they're calling a hydrogen bomb. It's not any type of nuclear or atomic bomb. It's like a fuel bomb that burns many times hotter than regular bombs. That's what America used in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Maybe not as good as what the Chinese have today. It may not have been as hot, but it was hot. And that's no great shakes, but it's a dangerous weapon. Okay. Let me see if I'm getting any questions in the chat, which I like to answer. What is Gaza protecting? They want to stay in Gaza to keep making war against Israel. That's what they're trying to do. Sending support from Seattle, Washington. Thank you. What do we want in Gaza? We don't want Gaza to be an armed military camp against us, if that's what your idea is. I don't know. They don't believe in the Bible, they believe in the Quran. And they think they're doing God a favor by killing the Jews. Okay, let's cover some other news. As you know, I keep explaining we're in the year of recompenses now. It started around August 10th, 2023, but it's a Shanat year. So that means it's not a Shanat 12 calendar month year. It's like sacrifice a lamb in the first year, in the first Shanat, and that means the lamb is a year old, but not 2 years old. It's in the middle. And that's what that year of Shanat means. It'll be a year, but not 2 years. So it could be between 12 months and a day, let's say, and 23 months and 29 days. Okay, prayer requests. I have two. The first one is for somebody. We'll use the initial S. I just have one initial for S. To return to the Lord, and also healing for physical, mental, and spiritual. For S in Sam, return to the Lord and healing physical, mental, and spiritual. Next prayer request is for SB, Sierra Bravo, SB, Sierra Bravo, SB. Get insights as to how to reach a loved one and for the Lord to help the situation. So for SB, that the Lord would give SB insights as to how to reach this particular loved one. And the Lord, of course, would help with this situation also. Israel is now considering rearresting the released terrorist prisoners that we did with exchanges with Sorry, guys, that was the buffering that came about. They got me again with that stinking thing. Okay, so I'm going to recap again. I don't think you heard all of it. What we accomplished in the war so far, because people are running around saying we've accomplished nothing. Okay, so something like 80% of the hostages have been returned to Israel. Rocket fire from Gaza has been reduced by 99% or 99.8% maybe. Approximately 20,000 Hamas and their cronies have been killed, and there's a lot of wounded that they got to take care of. If they don't take care of the wounded, the existing soldiers have a very bad morale because they think if they get wounded, they're just going to be sent home to die in their bed in great pain and agony. Most of the Hamas senior leaders have been killed. The U.S. is backing plans to get the Gazans to come out of Gaza now willfully, not against their will, but still out is out. Thousands of Hezbollah terrorists have been eliminated. Remember the pagers and other things. 80% of Hezbollah's capabilities are destroyed. That's a rough figure. It's probably about right. Hezbollah leadership has been targeted, assassinated. Hezbollah is not firing against us anymore, so we've reduced the rocket fire from and missile fire from Hezbollah in Lebanon by about 99.5%, 99.8%. The Iranian access of proxies has been significantly dismantled. Iran was pushed out of Syria. I'm not sure that was entirely our doing, but it did happen. And their militias have been displaced and scattered and busted up. The Syrian army capability, the new army has been crushed because we destroyed so many weapons and fortifications, old bases that they had. The IDF controls Mount Hermon, the Golan Heights on the Syrian side, and a big piece of South Syria in about 40 miles, not quite 40 miles. The Iraqi militias backed by Iran in Iraq have stopped shooting anything at Israel for quite a while. The Houthis are taking an unprecedented level of airstrikes. The airstrikes from America are now 24/7. They're not just at night, they're day and night. We dismantled a lot of Iran's air defenses in previous attacks by Israel, but I think they rebuilt. So that's not such a great deal, but it did hurt them. Iran's economy is in very, very bad shape. It was bad to start with, and it's getting worse. We've killed about 1,000 terrorists in the West Bank, Judea, and Samaria. They affiliate with Hamas, Hezbollah, and other lunatic, mentally ill organizations. We've evacuated tens of thousands of terror zones, well, terrorists in Judea and Samaria. So we actually have accomplished quite a bit, okay? But we're still in it. And that is to reinforce you to understand we're in the year of recompenses, which is payback. Israel has amazing victories going on with very, very little loss of Israeli life from between Lebanon and Yemen and Gaza and Iraq. Since October 7th, I would say we probably took at least 25,000 missiles and rockets. And there was a few people that got killed in Israel that were Arabic Muslims, but there was maybe 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, something like that, Israelis that got killed by these missile hits. It's unbelievable. Very, very few. I don't have an exact count, but it's very few. I don't know what Trump is going to do now that the Supreme Court said he can't just deport these aliens by just saying, oh, they're gang members, off to El Salvador you go, hi-ho. I don't know how he's going to get them out now. No idea. I don't know any other avenue he has. I don't know what he can do. Is Israel going to hit the nuke facilities? Well, of Iran, a good theory is they will. And that's what a lot of these weapons are, more than likely. But I don't know if they'll be able to blow them up. I don't know. They may go in with an underground commando raid using some sort of weapons I don't know about and do it. I don't know. I don't have any idea. They might enter the underground facilities and plant charges inside and then get out and blow it up. That might work, but you'd have to probably kill the guards and the military protecting them, and I'm not sure. I mean, this is unprecedented. And then Iran may unleash on the American military bases and the warships and Diego Garcia base, as well as oil refineries of the states in the Middle East, to cause a tremendous oil crisis by spiking prices that double and triple. And then Trump could attack Iran without any risk of being impeached, because he's defending the region and his allies against their criminal activity. They wouldn't impeach him. So are the American people waking up to this? Do they see the risks of all these problems facing America, the tariff wars, the risk of all kinds of wars, the risk of Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, Belarus, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Venezuela, Cuba, all turning against America, the sleeper agents opening up on America from within. No, they don't want to believe it, I guess. But these are the days of Noah. Let's read this, okay? So we go to Matthew 24:37. So we're switching to Bible now. Matthew 24:37. So pray for the peace of Jerusalem and Israel. I'm going to read this to you and interpret as we go. But I'm going to do a lot on the actual words and the mistranslation in the English, okay? But as the days of Noah, in Hebrew the name is Noach, but in English they say Noah, were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Now, see, you're reading coming and you're saying, oh, this Revelation 19, the return to earth of Yeshua, New Jerusalem with millions of angels and all that. Okay, yeah, that's what they want you to think. But let's look at the word for coming in the Greek, which is Greek Strong's number 3952. And let's see what Strong tells us this word can mean. His first choice is being near. Well, if he appears in the clouds, coming down to the clouds from the third heaven, wouldn't that meet the test? Being near? You could see him. Advent, that's not exactly it. It can mean return. Presence, it could mean presence. He's in the clouds. And Thayers says that this word, he interprets it future visible return from heaven. Well, that's Yeshua appearing in the clouds, a visible return, but not coming down to the earth this time. Okay? So don't buy into these English translations. They generally are very inaccurate. Coming of the Son of Man be. So to rephrase, but to reread it, but as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days of that were before the flood, that's what I'm focusing on here, they were eating and drinking, marrying, and given in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark. And on that day it was raining, and they never had rain before. It was the first time they ever had rain. And it lasted quite a while. Did Noah preach to them? Yeah, it says so. Did they listen? No. Did they mock him? Yeah. Was Noah and his family, you and your whole house shall be saved, delivered in the ark? Yes. And knew not until the flood came and took them away, so shall also be the coming. It's that same word, or it could be the appearing, right? The presence of the Son of Man be. Then shall two be in the field. The one shall be taken and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill. The one shall be taken and the other left. Okay, that's not the millennium, because the believers would not be grinding and working out in the fields. They would be living in Jerusalem in their Shabbat 1,000-year rest, and they wouldn't be working. Okay? Oh, this is for today. Could it be Gog and Magog? Well, you don't read it, anything like this, in Ezekiel 38:39 or Ezekiel 8-11 or Zechariah 14. No, this is for today. This is the tares and the wheat of Matthew 13. Let them grow together until the harvest, then the angels come and get the bad ones out, and he gathers the good one, the wheat, into his barn, which is the next great exodus, the barn being Israel. So I'll read it to you again. Then shall two be in the field, one shall be taken and the other left. The one taken is the bad one, that's rooted out by the angels. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken and the other left. The bad ones get taken out first, contrary to church teachings and Schofield and Darby teachings. Contrary to that. Watch, therefore, for you know not what hour your Lord doth come. Now, that word for come is not the same word that we saw before. The word we saw before was Strong's number 3952. This word in Matthew 24:42, they translate the same in English very, very bad. Evil on purpose to make you buy into the Schofield Darby raptures. Doth come. This word is 2064, okay, in the Greek. And we'll go to Strong's. And one of the meanings Strong's gives you for this word is appear. Appear. That's how you should read it. So watch therefore, for you know not what hour your Lord appears. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Now, let's check this word for good man of the house and see what it's really saying. Yeah, it really means the head of the house, the father of the house. Who's the father of lies, you know? But know this, that if the head of the house, not the good man, when they write the word good man, it makes you think that it's not Satan. It's the head of the house, the evil house, had known in what watch the thief would come. Well, okay, he's saying that he's referencing. It's different. Okay, I'll just leave it read by it is. The good man knows when the thief will come. He would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. So we're supposed to watch, aren't we? Therefore, be you also ready, for such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh. Well, that word cometh again is 2064, and it can mean appear. So he's going to appear, you're not going to expect it. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season? Remember, I keep talking about the early rains and the latter rains coming when he appears. Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh. Now, that word again is 2064, appear, shall find so doing. Verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. And that means Israel's the head of all the nations. But, and if that evil and if you're a true believer, not from Israel bloodlines, and you're in Yeshua, you're in Israel, and all Israel shall be saved. But, and if that evil servant shall say in his heart, my Lord, Yeshua calls you his brethren, right? You're in Israel. But, and if that evil servant shall say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming, again, that's the same word that can mean appear, delayeth his appearing. It looks like he's delaying it, but he's not. Jehovah's timing is absolutely perfect. Ours is not. We don't understand everything he's doing at the same time, but he does. And shall begin to smite his fellow servants and to eat and drink with the drunken. This is the bad shepherds of Israel in Ezekiel 34, the government, the rabbis, and those people, and the Satan bots that take advantage of the poor people. The Lord of that servant shall come in a day, and that word come is a different word now. It's 2240, which would have the meaning of be present. Okay, so if he's in the sky, shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, in other words, he's not watching, in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder and cut him asunder and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites, where there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. These are the days of Noah. They don't know what's going on. They don't talk about the sleeper agents anymore. That only happened before Trump's election. Trump doesn't even hint at it anymore, but it hasn't gone away. And you're seeing ruler against ruler, which took me a while to realize it, but the Supreme Court ruling against Trump is ruler against ruler. They're rulers. They have the right to stop Trump. I don't know what Trump's going to do for a workaround. He's probably going to try something, but I don't think it'll be lawful. He'll just get stopped again. So the people in America think they're invincible and they ain't never going to go down, and they're not the daughter of Babylon, and Israel's going to get destroyed, and all this nonsense. That's what they think. And we're in Zechariah 12. The siege is getting tighter and tighter on Israel. Netanyahu doesn't believe that there's going to be the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man in clouds and the people around everlasting life, and Ezekiel 34. is going to come to pass, and they probably think that these prophecies were all there before they killed Yeshua, and then after they killed Yeshua, they basically killed God or some other doctrinal error stuff they think, and they don't think anything's going to happen to them, and they're not going to believe it until it happens. And they'll keep doing wickedness, not having any reserves, nothing. Then they go down. And that's the 2/3 that get cut off in Zechariah 13, verse 8 and 9. And you read it in Malachi 4 in the first few verses. Okay, let me see if I have any questions. Who is ruling those rulers? Well, the Supreme Court doesn't really have a ruler. Their power is not reversible. I mean, if they come up with a ruling, I mean, Trump could make a legal argument and petition the Supreme Court to reverse itself, but they would probably read his submission and just deny it, not have a hearing on it. I teach the book of Revelation rather well, quite a bit too. Yeah, you guys know what's going on. People that are following me know what's going on, but that's a very, very, very small percentage of the country. The codex situation, there's no Bible code, guys. The Bible's an open book. There's no codes. They're Talmudic rabbis that follow the Talmud and the Kabbalah started with those number things, with establishing mystical meanings to numbers, and that's numerology. It's an old Satan trick. It's meaningless. So if you have any questions, I could answer them. My email address is in the chat and it's in the description box. It's israelgiving with the number 7 at Gmail. You can ask me questions. That's fine. Please pray for me and my wife who's traveling. Pray for a good travel prayer for her, and pray for us to be happy, healthy, and whole, and have peace and joy, and pray for our health, and pray for our finances, and pray for our animals and pets, which are all rescues, to be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for better videos, that I get more insights into prophecy, and pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I hope you got something out of this. You might want to be subscribed, because when the eggs hit the fan, I start doing multiple live streams a day. I appreciate it if you give me a like. It helps with the algorithm here. And I will, when stuff starts going down, I'll be doing a lot of live streams, and stuff's going to go down. Something's going to go down with Iran, with Gaza, or Turkey, and, something's going to come apart. Egypt, something's going to come apart. So you might want to subscribe. That's up to you. So I hope you got something out of this, and I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And thank you, and I'm out.